Welcome back to another episode of Mastering Master Mode. We start this episode off down in the jungle where I stumble across another Plantera bulb right next to my arena. You know I'm gonna fight Plantera since it's right next to my arena and I don't have to worry about dragging it all the way through the jungle over to the arena, and it's free money basically. Plantera is such an easy boss for me now, I can take it out so quickly. This episode of Mastering Master Mode is brought to you by the DanSquared playthrough of Cuphead. We played through all 3 islands, beat all the bosses, and we're ready to take on King Dice. Join us tomorrow, December 5th at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to see us take on King Dice and hopefully the devil himself. After that Plantera fight, I'm doing a little bit more exploring when I come across a couple of chests. The first one is perfectly safe, but the second one explodes when I try to open it, dealing massive damage, and it drops some boulders that I notice, and I remember that I need to actually die within 60 seconds of opening one of these dead man's chests for an achievement. So I go ahead and run into one of the boulders on purpose, definitely on purpose, to get the achievement, Dead Men Tell No Tales. I then decided I wanted to try out the Frost Moon event again. I know I got absolutely destroyed by this event the last time I tried it, but I've got some better weapons and some better armor now, so I should be able to get a little bit further and hopefully get the achievement for completing the event. As expected, I breezed through the early waves. They're super easy, I have great weapons, the Spectre Mask is making quick work of everything with the extra DPS that gets dealt, and I'm having fun trying out a whole bunch of different weapons. I'm using mostly the Heat Ray, but I am mixing in a little bit of the Inferno Fork and the Toxic Flask as well. The Toxic Flask is nice because it kind of sticks around and deals some damage over time, but it also deals massive damage on initial contact too. So it is a really good weapon, just a bit hard to use. Where I start to struggle is when the Santa robots come out. If you remember from the last time I did this event, the Santa robots deal a ton of damage and the bullets are super hard to see, so I take my first death to one of its bullets. When I respawn, it's still there just camping my spawn, so it takes me out almost instantly a second time. After I respawn, I'm able to escape from the danger zone, if only for a moment. The Santa tank is still running around and putting out lots of projectiles that I have to dodge, and it is pretty dang difficult. I end up running into a couple bullets and a present, and then finally getting finished off by yet another bullet from the Santa's tank. Those things are tough, I have a ton of HP, and I've switched to my Spectre Hood so that I can get some healing since I've been dying a bunch, so I'm not dealing as much damage and it's only making the fight harder. In case you're keeping count, this is the 4th time I'm dying to the same Santa tank. They are absolutely brutal. Things only get harder as I progress the wave and spawn 2 more Ever Screams, which makes dodging even more difficult, and I take another death to the same Santa tank. I really want to take this thing out, but I know that if I do, another one's just gonna spawn and it's gonna be the same thing no matter what. I did end up picking up a new weapon from one of the Ever Screams that I defeated earlier, the Razor Pine. This weapon shoots a spread of pine needles and shoots super quickly. I'm able to rack up a ton of damage very quickly utilizing this weapon with the Spectre Mask. The faster the attack speed of a weapon, the more extra DPS bullets spawn from my Spectre Mask. All the DPS upgrades allow me to take out the Santa tank, but since I'm focusing on that Santa tank, I get taken out by an Elf Archer's Flaming Arrow. Not only that, but just as I predicted, as soon as I took out one Santa tank, a second one spawned in, taking its place and terrorizing me in its fallen Santa Tank brother's honor. Right as the event is coming to a close, I jump on top of a zombie elf and take another death. When the event ends, all of the remaining boss enemies will just run away and stop attacking you. If you are fast enough, you can actually take them out, and that's exactly what I did with this Santa tank here. A little bit of revenge for me. After that semi-successful Frost Moon event, since I got the Razor Pine and that's a very good weapon, I decided to give the Old One's army another go. I couldn't even make it through Wave 2 without dying and losing the event, so I think I'm just going to leave that event until probably after the Moon Lord now. I'm definitely going to need some pretty major upgrades in both weapons and armor if I have any chance to take out this event. After that, I head back down to the jungle temple to grab the lizard altar that is used to spawn golem. I do this so that I can spawn golem up by my house, where I have a lot bigger open space to be able to fly around him, and his projectiles won't bounce around as much, making them a lot easier to dodge. I go ahead and spawn in the golem since I have a lizard power cell to do so, and I make fairly short work of him without taking too much damage. Once the nighttime rolls around again, I decide to spawn in another Frost Moon event, just because I wanted to see if I can make it even further with the Razor Pine, since it does deal a ton of damage. Unfortunately, I'm still vulnerable to these stupid Santa tanks, and one of them takes me out fairly early on in the night, but I do actually make it through more waves this time, and I'm able to spawn in the final boss of the event, the Ice Queen. The Ice Queen is super powerful and flies around, so it's kind of hard to hit her, but her attacks tend to be kind of slow and bigger, so they are a bit easier to dodge. Of course, I did fail to dodge it here, and she ends up taking me out, as well as in this fight where she takes me out again. This is probably her hardest attack because the little ice pellets she shoots out are faster and smaller than any of her other ones. After the Frost Moon event, I decided it's time to try and take on Duke Fishron again. I'm starting off, of course, with the Spectre Mask so I can deal a bunch of extra damage quickly early on in the fight, and this time I'm also using the Razor Pine since its DPS is, I think, better than the Heat Rays because of the fact that it shoots so fast. When I get low on health, I swap over to the Spectre Hood to heal back up, and I'm healed up so quickly for the same reason why the Razor Pine with the Spectre Mask is so good. The super fast fire rate allows so many more healing orbs to be spawned compared to the Heat Ray or other weapons that have slower attack speeds. Another change that I've implemented other than my weapon is I'm now riding on a tree instead of a horse, because as we all know, trees are so much faster than horses. I don't know if the top speed of the tree is actually faster than the horses, but they're at least comparable, and the tree doesn't have the warm-up time that the horse does. That means I'm able to go from 0 to 60 so much faster on the tree than I was on the horse. This allows me to outspeed Duke Fishron from left to right much easier than when I was using the horse mount. When it comes to the third phase, I'm pretty much just trying to go up and down as much as possible, since I think that's the best way to dodge Duke Fishron's attacks. I do end up taking a bunch of hits, but I am lucky enough to have a healing potion ready to use, and I'm getting a bunch of hits in with the Spectre Hood equipped, so I'm able to heal up most of the damage that I take. Thankfully, I'm finally able to take out Duke Fishron, and I'm able to earn myself the achievement Fish Out of Water. Of course, having a pattern, it doesn't mean it always succeeds, and I do end up taking a death while trying to farm Duke Fishron, since Duke Fishron has some really good items that I can use. Thankfully though, the strategy does work more often than not, and I'm able to farm Duke Fishron relatively easily. I'm able to take out Duke Fishron 3 more times, which is great. Being able to reliably take out Duke Fishron now gives me a lot of confidence in my ability to take out the few remaining bosses, like the Lunatic Cultist, the Empress of Light, and the Moon Lord. This Duke Fishron fight also gave me great practice in swapping on and off of my mount, and between the Spectre Hood and Spectre Mask for healing or damage. The ability to do both of these things will come in handy for all 3 of the next fights, I'm sure of it. And with that, we come to the end of the episode. I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did, and if you did, be sure to drop a like, leave a comment down below, and subscribe for more DanSquared action. Thanks for watching, and I'll see everybody next week for more Mastering Master Mode.